Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. I am Vernica Delancy, your host, and I am excited to be here today. Today's episode will actually be about the year in review. This will be the last episode, actually, for this year until next year, January 2021. In my opinion, it has been a really good time with all of you. And I'm just excited to be here today just to do a recap of what we have discussed for the past year on Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. I will encourage you at this time to please like and share the page. Tag anyone that you know would want to watch this episode this afternoon. I also, before we get into the show, I would like to use the opportunity to thank all those guests, all the participants who came on the show for this season of Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. It was a pleasure having you with me, and I am happy that you accepted the invitation to be a part of the show and to share your knowledge. I've had architects on the show, I've had attorneys, surveyors, I've had the planning department, I've had a property manager. I've also had an insurance broker, an appraiser, someone who have actually made a purchase. I've had someone from a development team. I've also had a bank on Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. I've had a business owner, and I've also heard from the Turks and Caicos Real Estate Association. So I have had a really good combination of guests on the show for this episode, and I am so grateful, so grateful. I would also like to use this opportunity as well just to thank all the listening audience who have tuned in week after week diligently to be a part of the show and to make it a success. I would also like to thank those who have sponsored the show, which is Sonny's Taxi. He has been a sponsor of the show. Also, EV Images. I'm so grateful for EV Images. Believe it or not, they have been very instrumental in setting up the Zoom for me each week. All I had to do was to come from work, sit in front of a computer, and present the show to you. So it was a really good help to me. And also, I want to say thanks to Ace Barbershop. They were also a sponsor of Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. So all of you, I am so grateful, and we are now at the last episode for this season. And I'll tell you the truth, I am looking forward to next season. I have a lot of great ideas in mind, but by saying that, I invite you tonight to please participate and be a part of the show. How can you be a part of the show? Well, number one, you can put any questions or comments in the box that you would like, but also I would like if you can give your comments as we go along this process to discuss the various things that were presented. Anything that you found that was enlightening to you during any of the episodes as I mentioned it, please put it in the comment box. So for example, when I speak about the attorney who was on the show, you can use this opportunity to express your thanks to that attorney for sharing her knowledge. And also you can use an opportunity to share what you learned from the attorney, because this is another way still of sharing your information and sharing knowledge with someone else who did not watch the show. So please add a comment. Let us know also what you think about the show. Add a comment and let us know about any topic that you would like to see us present to you next season. Please do so. Add a comment, because by you telling me what you want to hear about, then I can make the show more educational, because I will know that it is benefiting someone out there. Okay? So put your comment about what you would like us to speak about. Add a comment about the topic we are speaking about. Let us know what you thought about our guest that was on the show previously, on the show today. And I would like to just say one more thing before we get into it. It is a year in review, and I would like to, I'll try my best to touch on important points that I think is worth mentioning that were discussed over this past year, but that is worth mentioning over this past year. However, I may not have an opportunity within the time frame to also speak about everyone or speak about everything. So just bear in mind, it's not that I'm trying to forget anyone or forget anything that we discussed, but it's just so much information to cram within the time. So don't expect to hear everything, but today's session will be jam-packed and very informative. So, like I said before, grab someone, tag someone, share the script with someone. There is someone out there who still needs to hear about Let's Talk TCI Real Estate and what we have discussed so that they can know what to expect in season 2. Looking forward to it. And today I am so delighted to have with me one of my viewers who have been following Let's Talk TCI Real Estate in the person of Dr. Donna Rigby, and I'm going to give her an opportunity at this time just to hail you guys, the listening audience. Dr. Donna, this is your opportunity.
Thank you. Literally saying hi to everyone out there. Vernica, it was really great to follow your show this season. I actually tuned in from episode 1, and on days that I did miss some episodes, I literally went back to listen to it because the show had a lot of really informative information. So anyone, whether they were international or whether they were right there from within the Turks and Caicos Island that was looking to make a purchase or to simply learn more about real estate, they would have done that simply by tuning into your show. And I'm one of those people that religiously watch your show on a weekly basis. And like I said before, when I missed something, I literally went back to rewatch it. So I'm actually looking forward to the upcoming year with your new shows and everything that, all of the informations that you're going to be sharing with your audience. Just know that I'm always going to be out there listening in no matter where I am. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rigby, for joining me today. And I appreciate all the kind words of encouragement. And I too truthfully look forward to season 2 of Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. And so today I am happy to have you here, and we are going to just have a spotlight on some of the guests that have came on the show, and just to talk a little bit about what they spoke about and to just, put a few of the points out there. And it's going to be interesting to see what you gathered from the segments compared to what I gathered from the segments. So I am happy. So it won't just be me, but it's good to have a guest being able to tell me, hey, what it is that you have learned from this show. Thanks so much. And
just the audience know real quick, I'm not like an expert in real estate. I'm just sharing with Vernica some of the things that I learned because the show was so informative. And I was totally delighted when she asked me to come on and share some of the things that I learned, because I really learned a lot in the last couple of months. So we're in this together.
Thanks so much. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. Oh, and just sorry, one last thing. I always thank my previous guests. How could I have forgotten? I do want to give a special shout out to Mr. Matthew Brace. He is from the Chamber of Commerce. He was on the show last week, and it was a pleasure to have him with us. We will speak about that segment as well on the show, because I think there are one or two things I wanted to point out, so we will get to that. But we are actually going to start today. I thought it was a good place to start, with talking about architecture in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And our guest for that particular show was Shane Outen of Paradigm Concepts. Now, for me, there were a few things that he said that I want to point out today. And I've actually written down a few points so that I wouldn't forget anything. So here goes the points that I was able to gather. One of the important things I thought that he spoke about was that not only that he provided the drawings for his customer, but after which he also provided a management service in order to ensure that the project was built to the specific plan. I thought that was a very important thing to know, that an architect actually provides such a service, right? He also was able to tell us about, how architects charge. He spoke about charging based on the square footage. And also he said it's a possibility that you can be charged based on a flat fee. And it all depends on the complexity of the project. I know price is always an important factor when talking about anything. All right. I have three more points that I want to talk about, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. He spoke about a few things from a design standpoint that will make your property more marketable for resale. A lot of times when someone is building, they don't think about resale. So this why this stood out to me. He talked about the open floor concept. He also spoke about having high ceilings, natural lights, having a pool in your yard, and positioning in your home in a way in order not to have so much sunlight. These are things that people don't usually think about. And so this was something that really caught my attention. All right. And the other thing is he also spoke about vacation rental homes. Of course, vacation rental is a very big thing in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And so I thought this was very important to re-emphasize today on this show. He spoke about vacation rental homes being more built of a more modern design, right? Yeah. With the flat roofs. He really emphasized that because of guests to the islands, they like to sunbathe and they like to really take in the view. So he was like, you know what? A flat roof is one of the things that is very, really becoming when it comes to vacation rental villas, which is great for sunbathing. He also spoke about viewing platforms, and he also talked about taking advantage of the property views and also indoor-outdoor spaces. I've seen a number of homes that way. So yeah, these are really a few things that really hit home when he spoke about vacation rental homes. So for anyone out there, you are thinking about your very own project of a vacation rental, those are some of the things I think you should give consideration to. Taking advantage of the views, indoor, outdoor, living spaces, and on the sun deck. They are also basic, but at the same time, it does make a big difference. And I think in being able to promote your vacation rental villa. So, that's just some of the points I gathered, and which I think was very important. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Donna. Tell me, what did you think about that episode?
Well, I thought that episode was interesting as well. One of the things that Mr. Outen pointed out was that some architects have, cookie cutter drawings that can assist with cutting cost. These are typically straightforward starter homes, which would be quick and simple to build, to put together for a client. So that was something that I didn't think about previously, and I thought that was really important. He also mentioned on that show, not verbatim, but he also mentioned that to reduce costs, clients should start to think about the open concept homes to reduce the amount of rooms, meaning simply that if they build their homes with less partitions, then it will cut the cost, because that means that it's going to require less supplies in the forms of concrete or wood or, beams, those things that it takes to partition the house. Traditionally, homes used to have a lot of partition. For example, your living room, dining room were literally separated with walls. But with the open concept, it cut costs because you're not paying for all of those walls, and those were some of the areas that he focused on that I think was, good and valuable information for your listeners that day, including myself.
Cool. Yeah, I remember specifically, yes, that he spoke about that open concept and getting away a little bit from that traditional rooms. Yeah, I remember that was a big issue as well. Yeah, big thing.
Yeah, because a lot of people are still stuck on the that closed concept or that partition, having a partition for each and every room. But if you even go online and you look at some of the designs today for the open concept, they're simply beautiful, and it really could cut down on costs and, as he mentioned, and get people into their homes a lot quicker,
Yeah, and I also think that even for families, it's just a wonderful feeling to know you can be in the kitchen and be intermingling with someone in the living room and having a great, and especially for us in the Turks and Caicos where we have big family get-togethers. It's just
Yeah.
a perfect example to have an open concept plan generally within our
Yeah,
home.
that's a good advantage because, the person that's in the kitchen cooking can see right through the dining room, right onto the living room. So they're not so isolated. And I know that a good many of your audience are used to cooking in the kitchen and kind of being there by themselves. So when he made this point, I think that was beneficial for a lot of us because, for those of us don't want to be alone when we're cooking in the kitchen, that open concept gives you the opportunity to still be a part of your family while you cook. You can also watch the kids, for example, because from the kitchen, you can see what the kids are doing, maybe in the living room or in the dining room area, or, watch them do homework with the open concept.
Cool. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of really great information, and definitely for anyone who haven't watched that episode, they're all on my Facebook page, and also it's on my YouTube channel, Vernica Delancy, so you can go back, sort through it, and just go over those episodes. So another one of the episodes I would like to speak about today is the one about understanding surveying. For me, this is a very close topic to my heart, being a real estate agent. Because anytime we're doing a land transaction or home transaction, we always try to emphasize the whole idea about having a survey done for your property. And one of the points, this was done with Honorable Royal Robinson. I was so gracious that he was able to come on. He was, he's always busy. So it was such a pleasure to have him with me.
Right.
I just like how he broke down the whole scenario as to how the whole touring system started within the Turks and Caicos Islands. And I liked how he was able to explain to a person how the touring system gave you absolute title and it gave you security as a purchaser. So for anyone who is purchasing a property, there is no reason why they have to feel uneasy that after they've purchased a property, say 5 years down the line, that someone will be able to come back and claim that property saying that it belongs to someone else. So he did a long explanation for it. And for me, I said to him, that was one of the shows that actually went over the time that we had allotted for 45 minutes because I was so absorbed into the information. And he did a really good job in explaining that. But definitely that was one of the points that hit home. He explained from the initial setup stage of the touring system up to today's date. But just so people will know, hey, the touring system in Turks and Caicos Islands gives you a guarantee as a purchaser, anyone who's investing, when you get your title to a land, it gives you that security. So that was one of the points that hit home to me. What did you gather from that segment?
Well, I took away 3 really important points. That show, I remember, was really informative. And 3 of the things that I took away that he stated was that the boundary survey certificate is important. One is that it ensured that there are no encroachment on your property, which is really important. 2, the certificate would show everything on the land, inclusive of location of the home. So anything that's on that land, that certificate is going to show that at the time of purchase. And the 3rd thing that I took away from that was in case there's a future dispute on the land at a later date, maybe after you purchase or something like that, you would have that original certificate to prove the original state of the property. So that certificate is really, really important. That's your one document to show, what the property was like, what was on it at the time that you purchased it. So those 3 things I took away from that I thought was really informative for the audience because those are things that the average person really isn't thinking about when you're planning on a purchase,
Yeah, I like what you said. The average person isn't really thinking about that for true. So yeah, I just think all the information just really hit home with what he said. Yeah. In terms of
Mr. Robinson was chock full of information that day. I remember that show. So.
He was, and he was the right person to present the show because he had been in the land survey business from its inception, and he was actually one of the chief surveyors at that time. He came out of school, so yeah, it was really good. But I did agree with the points that he brought forward, and I think he was right on point. Yeah.
Well, I think his years of experience and his knowledge in the field definitely complement the information that he had when we did the show. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So moving along, because we have a lot to touch on it, there's a
Yeah,
few that is just so burning for me. I want to really get into, but I
yeah,
want to specifically also talk about the episode where we had Ms. Gasmi's Forbes and Mr. Keisha Williams. They were talking about the Rainbow Gardens affordable home. I was actually happy to have them on the show because I know a lot of persons out there are looking for something that is affordable. So it was an opportunity for persons to tap into knowing what was on the market for sale, as well as, just to get an idea of what affordable prices may be about, and, what one of the pre-construction home is all about. So they actually had given a presentation on the Rainbow Garden affordable home, which is a pre-construction development
right,
located in the Blue Hills area. They spoke about, it's 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, and they spoke about the very spacious property that had existed and all the amenities such as the dryers, washer dryers, stoves, fridges that were included in the project. But also the hidden home point for me, and I think that other audience members may have remembered, it was just as a reminder that there are banks out there that do lend for pre-construction. Sometimes people stray away from the pre-construction projects because they aren't sure that the banks will lend, but they were able to confirm with us that they had, at that specific time, they mentioned First Caribbean Bank, that they were working along with their buyers to allow them to purchase of those pre-construction homes. So I think
right.
that was one of the points I really wanted to bring to the forefront, just as a
Hmm.
reminder to persons that the bank is offering pre-construction. Of course, I'll say to you, if you're not a customer of First Caribbean Bank, please, do check with your local bank just to see if they are also offering that pre-construction service. But I think that was very important because that's a question we normally get in real estate. Hey, is the bank going to lend on pre-finance? I mean, pre-construction. So we
Hmm.
got the answer right there. Yes, they will.
Right. And I had two takeaways from that day. I thought that there was a good deal of information as well, but I also learned, according to your guests, Ms. Forbes and Ms. Williams, that the contractor is willing to reproduce the same floor plan on my own property. So if I have a piece of property and I want Rainbow Gardens to reproduce that on my property, they would be willing to do that for me at a reduced cost. They also shared that, this basically gives the buyer an option of a spacious design that could get into a quicker home. So if they're building that or reproducing that on my property, I get into the home quicker because the plans are already drawn. I don't just have to go and, draw plans and go through that entire process because they already have that drawn. So for a lot of people who wants to cut costs, this would be one of the options to go with. Because the plans are already drawn and you have your property already. So not only do you get into your property or you get into your home a lot quicker, but you also get it at a reduced cost. So I thought that was a good bit of information that wasn't readily available previously to the audience, and
Yeah,
something good to learn.
good. And
Yeah,
by talking about doing that, it shows the confidence of the developer, in my opinion,
yeah,
that
I
he
think
feels
so.
that the design that he has created, that other persons would want to replicate it on their particular property. So that tells me that the design itself is it's it's really family friendly,
Right, right.
because to have that confidence to think that others will want to replicate it on their particular property, I think that's a really good thing. It is really family friendly. And I have
Right.
actually been in one of the units that was available for sale, and they are spacious. And I think it is a good design for someone who's looking to, wet their feet into the market. So I'm
Right.
so grateful that they were able to come on the show to share that information with
Mhm.
us.
And one of the things I always say is that you never know until you shouldn't say no to something unless you try it. And in this case, for people that are looking to purchase a home or build a home, it's not going to take anything away from them. For example, if they were to go over to Rainbow Gardens and check out their affordable homes and check out their floor plans, because at minimum, they're either going to love the plans there and want to go with it, or they may actually want the people over at Rainbow Gardens to, sh- um, put their construction up on their property, which you never know. And it's all a part of, if you think about it, it's just another step in the research process when you're trying to purchase a home. So, that was something that I was interested in,
Yeah, no, I was glad about that as well. And even in real estate, sometimes those are things that you can even suggest to people, because sometimes someone buy a piece of land from you, and at the end of the day, hey, at least you have a suggestion. Hey, guess what? Check this out. This is going to help you save costs. Why don't you contact Rainbow Gardens? They have a floor plan that you may be interested in. So that was good information as well to learn about during the show.
It was.
Yeah. And last week's show may be fresh in a lot of person's mind, but, again, I thought it was worth mentioning with the Chamber of Commerce when Mr. Matthew Brace came on last week. He is actually in charge of government affairs with the Chamber of Commerce. It was pretty interesting to learn that the Chamber of Commerce is actually trying to merge their branches from within all the islands just to have one powerful voice. And I think that, well, in theory, it sounds really good to me. Based on his explanation, I think it's a step in the right direction. I hope it works like they intend for it to work, because the whole idea is to give businesses a solid representation, especially during this time of COVID. The Chamber of Commerce is the local voice for businesses. But I mean, especially during this time with COVID, I think it's needed more than ever before. And the other thing I wanted to point out about that conversation, I specifically asked him when, how do they intend to represent business interests? And he said that what they usually would do at this time is to seek the views of members on particular topics, and then these issues are raised to the government. So, and it seems as if they have a very good relationship with the government at this time. So that's most important when getting into any business. And one of the things I also mentioned on that show is that a lot of times people don't think about real estate as being the sale of businesses. And so anybody who's looking to purchase a business or start a business, it's a good place to go to the Chamber of Commerce, be a part of it, because it can only improve on your business ideas, I believe, and your status in your business at this time, and see what the business, and be able to have a good pulse about the business, what's happening in the business community at this particular time. So I mean, I would encourage people to watch that show again. The information was really great. So yeah, tell me what you think about it.
Well, I had one major takeaway from that, although it was a plethora of information. The one thing I remember in building relationships with other businesses is that they're going to be having workshops or conducting workshops in the upcoming year so that existing and new businesses can benefit from. So, for example, if there are any businesses out there in the Turks and Caicos that, need some information or planning to make a purchase or just have general questions, it would be a good idea for them to go to these workshops to get more information. One of the things that is also beneficial, I thought, after watching that particular show, is that it's a good way for businesses to network with each other as well.
Exactly.
While getting to know their Chamber of Commerce, because, when you're going to do business in a certain area, it's good that other like people or, business people that are around you as well. So this would be a good opportunity for businesses to be known and to get to know other businesses as well by going to those workshops that they're going to start conducting this coming year. So I thought that was a good point. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And what I want to speak about now we've had two attorneys on the show. We've had Miss Chriselle Bain, and we've also had Miss Sarah Knight. They spoke about two different things, but at the end of the day, most of the information, they spoke about two different topics, but at the end of the day, they spoke about the same thing about the duties of the attorney in the real estate transaction, which I feel is very important to know, especially for anybody buying or selling, is to understand all of that information. But specifically what I wanted to speak about from the show with Miss Sarah Knight, about the ways of taking title, I felt like this was a very good show to have, because a lot of times persons, they just go with the flow. They go with the regular information, and they don't try to find out, hey, can I do this another way? And so I was glad that she was able to clarify to everyone these different ways. And she spoke about having a property in your personal name, also the name, your property in the name of tenancy in common, so you can have it with others, but based on shares. She also spoke about having it in the name of a trust, which is usually done to limit liabilities. I thought that was a very good point that she made, because she also spoke about, persons who are buying for investment purposes. If you just say vacation rental villas, it's always best if you can have that villa better, I'll say, if you can have your villa in a company name instead of your personal name, because it helps you when it comes to liabilities. Remember, you're dealing with guests, and anything is liable to happen. So I thought that was a really good point. And she also said that when at the time of a preliminary agreement, you did not have to have, just say if you decided to put it in a company name, you didn't have to have it done at that time. But the lawyers are able to expedite opening a company on your behalf and getting the final sales and purchase agreement done in the company's name. So you didn't have to worry, hey, I'm first time on island, I want to purchase in the company's name. I don't have the company set up as yet. What do? I can't move forward with the transaction. Yes, you can. And the attorneys will help you with that process of forming that company in time to close on that deal. All right. And she also spoke about how you can deal with a company that needs to be reinstated, because that was one of my questions, that, hey, now we placed the property in a company name, we didn't do what we were supposed to do to keep it up to date. I want to sell it a few years later, what's the implications? And so she was also in that episode able to clarify that information in terms of how the company could be reinstated. So I thought that it was a compact. All of these were compact shows, but it's just that when you start pulling the information out, you realize that there was so much information to be taken out of the segment. So those were three of the things that I really wanted to touch base on in terms of taking title in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So what was your take on that show?
Well, for me, that was one of the most enjoyable show. And actually, I thought that Miss Knight did a great job explaining, to me, I felt like her show, or the show that you did with her, like that could have been another episode, to be honest with you, because I felt like there was a lot more that she had to offer, but in the interest of time, she had to cut some of the information short. But that particular show, I left feeling like, okay, I could have listened to her some more, because, of all the information that she was sharing, and I really felt that she had a lot more to share. Now, in that segment, I learned that she spoke about the rights that the belonger has if they are to sell their land that was received by the Crown. And now I have a better understanding of the process. Another important point she made was that after 10 years of owning a lot obtained by the Crown, then a person must apply to the Crown to have the charge removed, because the charge remove is not done automatically. That was something I didn't know. That was new to me. So for her to share that information, I thought it was really informative, and it was important because, you get to thinking like, wow, what if I didn't know I had to apply to get that charge removed? Because then that would have been another problem. And that's one of the reasons why I said the show could have gone on a little bit more. She could have had a part two, because there was just a lot more questions. But I did enjoy that, and those are two of the really important things that I learned, about removing the charge and some of my rights as a belonger, that want to sell a property. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I remember mentioning in that show as well, just to say the purpose of the show wasn't to encourage belongers to sell their land, but at the same time, it's a real estate show, and you need to know what are your options in the event that it becomes necessary to do so. It makes no sense not speaking about the subject when it exists. And I like to say that, because sometimes people feel like you're forcing them to do something. You're not forcing them. You're just giving them the information so that they can make an informed decision if they are ever put in that position and have to go. Yeah.
And remember, information is power. For example, if I didn't watch that show, I wouldn't have known about, having to have the charge removed. That is information that's important. The more information you have, the more powerful you are, the more informed you are. You're likely to make less mistakes. So I remember you stating that you're not encouraging people to go sell their property. That's not what you're saying. Again, the show is very informative. And for me, I took that information as, information that I may use later on, information that I may pass on to someone else. So, from that point of view, I think it's important that we know these things, because if I didn't watch it that day, I wouldn't have known, so information is power, no matter how you look at it,
Definitely. Yeah. So moving along to Provident Limited and the development in the Turks and Caicos Islands. This was a show that I had and featured Bank Soderquist. He has been on this island since around 1966. And I was really excited to have him on the show. I've been telling him over and over, hey, you need to, write a whole documentary as to what's been going on from you came on island, because he had so much history that he could share with us. So I thought it was a very historic show. But most importantly, what I took away from it, there was a lot of things I did take away from it, but I wanted to speak about today was I always thought that when they talk about Provident Limited having land in the Turks and Caicos Islands, there were a few misconceptions I had about it. I always thought that they had all of the land and they were also on other islands, but he was able to clarify, hey, it was only 4,000 acres and it was only on Providencia Islands. And were asking about 2,000, and the government at that time had asked them to take on an additional 2,000 to make it a total of 4,000 acres in exchange for developments on parts of the island, like I said, specifically Providencia Islands. So that's information I didn't know, and I was glad that he was able to clarify. And he said at that time the population was about 450 to 500 persons. That was a lot of people back then to them, but it seems
literally like the beginning of time in Turks and Caicos.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. And they considered it like a seed project to get tourism going within the island. At the time, they weren't sure that it will work, but obviously it did work. It did bring development in Turks and Caicos Islands. And I did specifically question him, asking him, what was this in exchange for? And he specifically said that it was in exchange to build roads between the three settlements, to build a runway. Also, a 10-room hotel resulted because of this, which was the Turtle Inn. And it was their responsibility to create subdivision. So, I just want to use this opportunity to say to Bank, thanks for the clarification. And you know what? I tip my hats off to the Loddington brothers, Bank Soderquist, and all those who were instrumental in this part of development of the Turks and Caicos Islands. I do believe give credit where credit is due. We may not like everything, but I think they've done a real good job in bringing recognition to the island from 1966 until now. So that's what I wanted to talk about that segment. But definitely, like I said, there's so much more and so much more history that Bank had offered to us. And that's when I encourage you to take a look at it. So go ahead. I'm talking too much. Go ahead, Dawn.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Because, basically, you're just hitting the nail on the head. Because for me, it was certainly good to get a better understanding about, the acreage and the property. It was good to clear up the misconception. And it wasn't as you with the misconception or me with the misconception. It was a lot of people that didn't quite understand how that property went. So it was good to clear up the misconception of where all the areas of land Provident had ownership of. It was not, from my understanding, what I took away is that it was not the entire island, but rather about 600 acres in Grace Bay, 1,200 acres in Long Bay, some acreages in Turtle Tail, and also in Thompson Cove. So not the entire Turks and Caicos. We're looking at Grace Bay, Long Bay, Turtle Tail, and Thompson Cove. That's it.
Yeah. So
I sleep better at night knowing that.
Yeah, but I thought it was really great that Bank was able to come on the show, and I'm so grateful for all the points. That was another show. I know I've said this before, but that was also another show that I thought could have taken a part two, like you said, because there was so much information. But I'm happy that I had the opportunity to interview Banked Soderquist. And he is, in my opinion, when it comes to real estate agents in Turks and Caicos Island, he's still practicing real estate. And I often ask him, when is he going to retire? And he starts laughing. He's like, if he retires, he doesn't know what he's going to do. So it's real estate. Real estate is really dear to his heart. And I just want to mention one last thing. He did also on that episode, he spoke about how he did a transaction in return for ice cream. And, he said that he did have a copy of a land register with that for consideration, because usually a land register would say for consideration for love and affection. And actually his register had said consideration for ice cream. So I think that's very historic. We will never see a consideration like that again. I don't think so in this lifetime. So I was glad about all that he was able to share with us, right?
There are a few more time there.
Definitely. There are a few more things I would like to say today, so I'm just going to move right along. Like I say, it's 1 year, but at the thing, it's so many things to share, but I think they are worth sharing with everyone today. Another important segment we had was actually with about home security, and we had the Spend Security team with us. We had a few technical difficulties on that show, but at the end of the day, I thought it came out really well, because I think the information was really timely for everything that was happening in Turks and Caicos Islands. And a few points I just jotted down here that they spoke about, what Spend Security did speak about, was about, they talk about having a good quality brand. Because I did ask them, I say, hey, for someone who, of course, they offer the services. Let me say that first. They do offer a very top-notch service to customers who are interested in home security. They offer security service for businesses as well, and also personal security services they do. But I also wanted to just pull from them, for anyone who was not able to hire their professional services, as to what a person should look for if they wanted to do something like this on their own. And one of the things they spoke about was to make sure you have a good quality brand camera. They also said to make sure that it had good definition. So it should have been high definition, especially if you're going to use the information for evidence. A lot of times things happen. You catch the person on camera, but the information is no use, because you have to ensure that the definition of the camera is of good quality, which I thought that was very good information. They also spoke about having capacity for recording. You want to make sure you have enough space, and make sure you can retrieve the data, and make sure that your security equipment can withstand the weather in which it operates. Things like this you would think people would automatically think about. But it's always a good reminder, because the simple things, sometimes we don't actually automatically think about it. So I am so grateful for those few tips. And of course, like I said, the show was even more extravagant than that with information, but I just thought I wanted to make mention of that. Go ahead.
Also, I thought from that particular show, they mentioned, when you want to do something like that, you need to have somewhere that you can record that information. But my real takeaway was that basically the company provides consultation to customers, and they're willing to work with their customers who may not have all required funds, because the world is on a budget these days with everything that's going on. So they were sure to point out that if people are interested in acquiring their services and they didn't have sufficient funds, or maybe they look at their pricing and thought, oh, I don't quite have enough, still contact them, and they will do their best to work out, something that would fit within your budget for you. So never say no, just call them and they'll see what they can do. They're always a phone call where I'll tell you the truth. Anytime I just send a WhatsApp or text someone from the team, they always respond right away. So please give them a call. So that's good. So moving along, we want to speak about the spotlight on the outer island. This was with Dr. Carlton Mills. Now the young people. Yes, I'm young, but the young people usually said, "Now this show was lit." With Dr. Carlton Mills, and I saw so many comments. Just they didn't want him to stop. And I was actually enjoying the show as well, because he just hit the nail right on the head.
He did. So a few takeaways I had from that was he highlighted some of the organic investment opportunities for the outer islands.
Right.
He highlighted the need to vacation in our own islands, which I always agree with, to truly explore the many opportunities. You'll be surprised to know how many of us Turks and Caicos Islanders live within the islands and have not explored the outer islands. So we need to take a minute to vacation within our own island. He also spoke so passionately about the islands, especially South Caicos and North Caicos. We know that's where his heart is at. Some of his words were, we need to get persons who are passionate about the islands to promote them. I did agree with that because they had so much to offer that is not being spoken about. The island does have so much to offer. He also pointed, because I was asking him, hey, well, what can we do, for investment in these islands? And he spoke about South Caicos is ideal for the fishing lodges and for yacht mariners. North Caicos for eco lodges and also education tourism. Yeah, I remember a number of feedback came on the comments when he spoke about education tourism. I think North Caicos is right for education tourism. He also highlighted the whale watching in Salt Key, and then in addition to a number of other opportunities that are available in the outer islands that gives us an opportunity to diversify the economy, which is much needed. Diversifying the economy is something that we always talk about in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And so that show really gave us a hint of how we can diversify the economy and not just be dependent on one sector that may crumble anytime, and we can have something to hold on to. So
like not just tourism.
Exactly. So what type of information you gather from that segment?
Vernica, one of the things that I want to touch on, you just mentioned whale watching in Salt Key. I didn't even know that existed. I mean, I literally had no clue. And as many times as I've returned back to Turks and Caicos, I literally have never thought of going whale watching. I would if I knew it existed, but I didn't. So, just getting that information out there, him being on your show, I know the next time I come back, that would be one of the things that I'd like to go and enjoy because it could be a lot of fun. I've watched it on TV, but not like in the real, so that would be really good. I also, to conclude about this, I actually felt like you needed to have Dr. Mills back on the show because he spoke about so many historic facts and opportunities.
Sorry, let me just pause for a minute. That's a few times we've said, if there's anyone out there who's listening and you think that we should have Dr. Carlton Mills back on the show, please type in the comment, please bring Dr. Carlton Mills back.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
That show was like chock full of information. It was like a chocolate bar that was filled with almonds and peanuts and raisins and everything in it. Seriously, that's how I remember that show. When I watched that show, I was like, wow, because he had information coming from everywhere, and all these things that I just never thought of. So, I just would love to see him come back on the show. That's the only thing I have to say about that is that I would love to see him come back on the show, and I would be first in line to tune in, to watch him and get some more information. Like he said, there's still a lot to be tapped into the outer islands, and I think that's true. For example, the whale watching in Salt Key, just one thing. He mentioned a lot of other things that could be tapped into, and he even gave examples as to, how it could be done. But the show was just too short for the amount of information he had.
Yeah. If you're listening, Dr. Mills, obviously you have fans out there who want to hear you come back. But on a serious note, you did give a lot of information. And you did touch, the minds of a lot of people because, like Dr. Donna mentioned, there's so many people who have not tapped into all of these natural, possibilities within the Turks and Caicos Islands. And it's a shame sometimes to say it, but it's a reality. And so these are ways that these are things we need to tap into because, and especially in this day and age when we're talking about diversifying the economy, it is much needed. And Dr. Mills is so passionate about the islands, and you gathered a sense of that from the show. And like he said, we need more people who are passionate about the islands to be able to push our islands forward to let people know, hey, we have great opportunities in the outer islands. as well.
And Vernica, I gathered that Dr. Mills, he's been around the islands for a while. He has all this information. He loves the island. And you know what? When he was talking, that all of that was coming across to the audience. Like, you could feel that he really cared about the Turks and Caicos, not just because of the information, but even in his presentation. That was definitely one of the shows where I thought, okay, I'd like to see him back on, because he just had a lot to offer.
Yes, it sounds good. Yeah. So there are two more I want to touch on before we wrap it up. And that will be the first one I will say about property management. Now, that show with property management, I know a lot of persons had actually watched the show, and I'll encourage you to continue to watch that one. We had Mr. Claudius Williams on that show, and he actually gave a full explanation about the property management services. He spoke about reservations, maintenance, bookings, and guest care. So he told us, that's what a full property management service is all about. So for anyone who had any doubt and you want to know, hey, property management, that's a full property management service that you can, that's what you should be looking for. Someone who's going to deal with reservation, maintenance of your property, bookings, as well as guest care, which is so important, right? Yeah. He also explained to us, that a management company is good to have because they understand the business on the island. Someone who has the right relationships and can interact effectively with individuals to get the management job done. Mm-hmm. That was a really key point when he said that about understanding businesses on island. I thought that that was really a point that you don't really think about with property management, but actually that tells me that he knows just how to get the job done. And then the other thing he spoke about was the management team will have the specialties as, specialists as part of their team to be able to service emergency needs of their guests and maintain any repairs with the property, in the weirdest times. And one of the examples he gave on the show, which was so funny, but it was so true, about a guest calling in the middle of the night for ice. You would think something like that is so minimal, but with property management, it made me laugh. But with property management, it's like you don't know when you will be called upon, and you have to be ready at all times. And when persons are on vacation, they are looking for that prompt service, that reliable service, that efficient service. Because remember, they're just enjoying a holiday for a few days, and they don't have that time to wait to allow, those things to be fixed or dealt with. And so I think that, that's just one or 2 points that he spoke about, but he also gave tips upon recommendations in terms of how to prepare your property for property management. What are, the best concepts for a property that's going to be that's going to set up your house to be able to short-term rent. Why are my words being tied up? And so I think that segment is really important for anyone who is thinking about property management or, would like to rent a vacation rental villa to watch, because he did give an all-around example or explanation of the whole process. So go ahead.
I definitely agree with you on that. Mr. Williams was able to, walk us through the process from booking a trip to arriving on the island, the guests until right to when the guest experience ends, and he made the process sounds very seamless, not just for the guests, but, the ease in which they do it, He also spoke about some of the things that homeowners should consider, if they're building a property for vacation rentals, to save on costs, inclusive of energy efficient appliance, for example. The information was very detailed, I thought, and worth listening to again. So for people out there who are interested in, getting into property management, I think Mr. William and his team would be a good team to contact based on the information that he shared, to get them started as to how the process works. Mm-hmm. And it was just really informative as well,
Yeah.
And so that's basically what I took away from it.
Yeah.
They made it seem seamless, literally. Yeah.
He did. I think he did a really good job in explaining and helping people to understand the property management business on island. And I thought that was very important because we have a lot of persons come in here to invest, And vacation rental villas is one of our main things that persons, think about. And I thought he did a really good job in explaining what to expect with that type of sector in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the last point, the last show I would like to touch base on today. That does, like I said, there were so many other shows, but I don't want to just keep going and going and going. Of course, you have an opportunity to go over it and watch the shows yourself. But the last show I would like to speak about today was the one with the purchasing process with Miss Bernice Burley. And the reason I would like to touch on this because I just felt the connection with her. It was an experience from a real purchaser. And sometimes you want to get that experience, and not just us as agents speaking, but also to know what that purchaser or what that buyer may actually experience, because I think their experience goes a long way in helping someone else in need. And I want to say that, you know what, Donna, you go first this time. I've been just speaking and speaking. Go ahead. Tell me, what did you
I want to say that I enjoyed that show with Miss Vernice. Now, if ever I'm in Turks and Caicos and she's there, I'm going to ask you to introduce me to her, because I know for a fact from listening to her and watching the show that she has a lot more information to share. She went through the process that she experienced, and from what I can gather, she was very optimistic about the entire process, but I gathered that there were some challenges along the way, some unexpected challenges that she overcame and in making her purchase. But in the end, like she said, if it's something that you really want, you keep going to it. So I specifically can hear the advice of Ms. Vernice, telling you to get a real estate attorney when doing a transaction, because I know that here sometimes people go to purchase a home and they want to cut costs, and one of the costs they try to cut is not getting a real estate attorney. And she really emphasized that, not just any attorney, but a real estate attorney, because one of her experience was getting an attorney that wasn't really a real estate attorney, and then the second attorney she got was a real estate attorney, and that's when there was a turn of events and things changed within that process. So when you get an attorney in purchasing a home, what I took away from her testimony is that you must get a real estate attorney. Don't just get any old attorney, because any attorney will want to take your money, really, and try to do the work for you. But a real estate attorney will know more about the purchasing process when it comes to getting you in a property and not having any issues after your purchase, So, and she basically explained why that was important. So I second what she said about not just any attorney, a real estate attorney who knows what to look for, as opposed to a family lawyer or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got from it.
Yeah, I remember her really specifying that get a real estate attorney. And, but what I would like to sum this part of it up with and saying about, my experience with her on the show as well, like you said, a real estate attorney, it just took me back to being so grateful for the two attorneys, Michelle and Miss Sarah Knight, for coming on the show, because it just overemphasized again the need for an attorney. No matter if you're buying or if you are purchasing, there's a need. And sometimes person, like you had said before, would like to cut costs, but they don't realize that it actually is like if something happens in future, you're not actually cutting costs. It's like it's going to be more of a disadvantage to you, because you're going to end up paying more, because that attorney has to actually correct the mistake that has already been made. If you choose not to have an attorney in the first instance. And the attorney is very instrumental in the closing process. And I know we spoke about Sarah before, but only because we're talking about an attorney again. And she made it very clear that persons actually, for example, if you do not have an attorney and you're on the purchaser side and now the registration has to be done, if that even though you may have signed that preliminary agreement or that contract with that person saying they are going to sell you the land, if you do not register that with the Turks and Caicos government, you are still not the owner of that parcel.
Exactly.
And so sometimes, that paper could have been lost or anything would have been dealt with because they just as a purchaser did not get around to dealing with it. And they may go on years later thinking they own a property and they did not. And so it's so important to have an attorney on your side to make sure you dot all your I's and cross all your T's. The work of an attorney, there are so many things involved with the closing process. It's easy to them because they're doing it all the time. Why not trust them with the process to get it completed for us? I feel like they play a really big role in real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I tip my hat to them.
Well, anywhere for that matter.
Yeah.
And, one of the things I noticed that we don't think about, the fine prints, they understand it. And it's always those things in the fine prints that gets us. An attorney can see the difference between an is and the word are in your contract. Because is and are could make a whole difference in what that contract is saying and what the requirements are. Now, from the layperson like myself, I may not get that, but having that attorney to look at it can tell you, oh, wait, here's what it's saying, and can save you a whole lot of headaches in the end. So even though you can buy a property without an attorney, it is detrimental, extremely important that you try your best to get a real estate attorney to assist you through that purchase.
Yeah. So I was really appreciative of that show, and really appreciative of both Chriselle Bain and Sarah Knight for coming on the show, because I thought that was very important. And even in the new year, I would like to try and get another attorney on, because there are so many issues in real estate that needs to be dealt with. And I feel, and like I've said before, everyone who I've had on the show have actually, in my opinion, have given free consultation, if you look at it. And why not grab the information, run with it? They've been so generous in doing that for us, And I just want to say in closing, just one or two other things I want to say. Of course, there were so many other guests on the show. I am really excited about you, and I just want to give special mention to RBC Bank, because they were my first guests on this show, and I really appreciated them coming on. And they were able. That show was a real good hit. They actually, explain to persons about the pre-qualification process, how things work with the bank. And, persons have been asking, that they come back on because, they had more questions. And I'm just extending the invite on television now. I would like if they will be able to come back on my show for season 2. I would really like to have them back. I think there's a lot more information they can share with us. Most of the transaction that happens in Turks and Caicos Island is through bank financing. And so I feel like you cannot get too much of that information. I think that it's only good information that can be passed on to those who are interested in purchasing. And the last person I want to take note of is Mr. Draxel Seymour. At the last minute when I needed someone really well, he was like, yes, I will be on your show. I really appreciate you. And he did have a very interesting article about land ownership in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And he did point out to us about we are not making any more land. So hold on to your land. Land can increase value. I did challenge him a little bit on the show when I told him to please explain that to me, for the audience. But I really appreciate it, and I appreciated all of my guests. I thought it was a great. I thought it was a great guest. I thought it was a great year.
Just as a viewer myself, you had some really great guests. And I thought that, the show itself is beneficial, not just to your viewers, but also to your guests, because people are learning that they are there and that they exist and that they have businesses that can serve them. They have services that are available to your viewers. So I think the show is extremely important, and I'm looking forward to you coming back next year, because I think you're doing the public a good service.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And one last thing I want to say is that, just for anyone who feels like, hey, you're just promoting this one or that one. It's not about promotion. It's about getting the information to you. And if it means I have to promote to get the information to you, then that's what it's going to be. Because I feel that persons like Dr. Carlton Mills isn't looking for me to promote it. Person Mr. Draxel Seymour, they're already established.
They're already established.
Person like Sarah Knight, she's already established. They're not looking for the promotion. They're looking to pass that information on to you to help you to be able to make an informed decision on your real estate purchase that you are looking to make in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So grab the information, run with it, And I will say a big thank you once again to everyone who have tuned into this show, to my great people who've been watching me from the UK, from the Bahamas, from the US,
Yes.
even from the Caribbean islands. Yes, I know you're from Atlanta. I want to say a big thank you. I may not say it on every episode of the show, but I always go back and I always give you thanks because I know that the show cannot be a success without you. I know
Right.
you are watching. I appreciate those who even watch the show on the weekend and they come back and they say, hey, the information was great. So thank you so much for your support. I am looking forward to next year. And again, even though this broadcast might be ending right now, please comment in the link. Please let us know what topics you would like us to bring to you next year, as in January. I'm giving you an opportunity to enjoy your holiday, but I will be back in January, and
Right.
I am looking forward to being with you and sharing with you once again. So
Right.
I will say, Dr. Donna, thank you so much again
Thanks for
being
having me.
with me, and
I appreciate the chat.
and thank you also for listening into the show and sharing what you have learned
Yep.
with
Thank
the
you.
listeners.
You're very welcome. Well, as I always say, information is knowledge and knowledge is power. Can't get enough of it.
Thank you. And so
Thanks for having me.
thank you. And like I always close off by saying, until next time, stay safe and remain blessed. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate and not that of Keller Williams TCI or any of its affiliates. Any action you take upon the information provided on this show is strictly at your own risk, and Let's Talk TCI Real Estate guests or hosts will not be liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of the material. I am not an investment advisor, broker, or dealer.